Hello and welcome to another special edition of our election series, The Dhavas of Democracy. As we first told you when we set out from Kanyakumari, we were headed by road to Kashmir. And I'm very happy to report that finally we are nearing the end, the culmination of our grand adventure by road that has taken us across the length and breadth of India. At this moment, I am in a small residential colony of North Kashmir in Baramulla. Why is Baramulla important? Guess what? Baramulla in Kashmir voted its highest turnout in 4 decades, and its voting turnout was higher than Mumbai. Baramulla in Kashmir voted in greater numbers than Mumbai, than Bombay. So there's a lot that's going to come out of Kashmir. We're here on the ground. We have nearly completed our election road yatra. You can see a whole bunch of eager young kids, India's next generation, crowding around me, and that's great to see. It's also great to see the enthusiasm with which people have voted here in Kashmir. And more on that later. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. As I've mentioned, our road trip began in Kanyakumari, and from the very southernmost tip of India's mainland, we have been making our way through multiple states, 11 states, in fact, countless parliamentary constituencies, as we have driven by road. There you can see our team, our camera person, and our driver as we have driven all the way up to Kashmir. But of course, wherever we go, there is the dramatic everyday twists and tales of this election. And today, we are talking about the latest conflict between the opposition and the Election Commission. The opposition is accusing the Election Commission of bias. The opposition, led by Mahua Moitra, filed a petition in the Supreme Court. The fight now is over a form called Form 17. The essential allegation by the opposition is that there's been a mysterious delay and a discrepancy in the turnout as it looked on the day of voting and the final revised turnout by the Election Commission. The Supreme Court has, however, taken a quote-unquote hands-off approach. They have said it's the time of election, this is an interim petition, and we cannot get involved. The opposition has continued to allege a bias by the Election Commission, even as the opposition also argues that it is in a position to dislodge the Prime Minister from third term come 4th of June. To understand this latest battle, what is Form 17? What has the Election Commission done? Could it have done something differently? Let's introduce our guests on the program today as we come to you from Srinagar. Let me first introduce Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate that's not Sanjay Hegde, but that's Sanjay Hegde. Welcome to the program, Sanjay Hegde. Also joining us is Maadhavan Narayan, senior journalist. Welcome to the program, Maadhavan. Also joining us is Mohandas, a venture capitalist, industrialist, and analyst. And also joining us is Anurag Naidu, political analyst. Thank you very much, everybody. Sanjay, I'll start with you. The Supreme Court has clearly taken a position that it's not going to get involved. And they say this is not their business. They're not in the business of running elections. How do you respond to what's happened, and why is the opposition talking about bias?
Well, uh, I don't speak for the opposition. And the basic petition was by the Association for Democratic Reforms, which has been constantly petitioning the Supreme Court about various things relating to elections. It was because of the ADR that today you have affidavits stating the candidates' qualifications, his assets, and so on and so forth. The ADR, along with others, had petitioned the court earlier with regard to the VVPATs and all that. And in that batch of matters, I was there. Even at that point of time, the Supreme Court basically said that, look, we have an expert body which conducts the elections. We cannot micromanage. We do oversight. We have put in suggestions which tighten the system. Now, after that came this controversy with regard to Form 17C. Now, what is Form 17C? Form 17C is a form which is given at the booth level, saying how many votes were cast in that particular electoral unit. And a copy of it is given to the election officer of the candidate. In previous elections, the Election Commission used to upload all the data from all the Form 17Cs in one compact manner where it was easily accessible. But after the 2019 election, and when the data from the Form 17Cs were correlated with other data, and there was a data mismatch, and there were certain uncertainties, this time there is no data on Form 17C which has been uploaded on the Election Commission website. That was a requirement, which at least that was a past practice, which was a healthy practice, which both the ADR and some opposition figures, including Mahua Maitra, thought should be implemented. Now, today what the Supreme Court has said is that, look, these questions with regard to the petition itself are pending. You had asked for it on a previous occasion. At that time, we had said nothing. Now, at this late stage, we are not going to say anything. We are simply going to adjourn this till after this round of elections is over. So the Supreme Court has essentially told everybody. I'm sorry?
Yeah. No, I'm saying what changes? This form is not going to be uploaded. Does this mean that we do not know how many votes are polled booth-wise? When I say we, I mean the larger public.
The larger public will not immediately get to know. Now, the same 17C forms in the state of Tamil Nadu, what happened was that the DMK was well organized. They have collected all their Form 17Cs, put out the data in the public domain, so that if there is too much of a deviation, then it would be easily caught. Mahua Maitra also has done it similarly with regard to her constituency. But at a national level, this task of aggregating could only have been done by the Election Commission, and it used to do it earlier. So the question is, why is it not doing it now? And essentially, all institutions rest on public trust and transparency to the extent which is possible. Now, that which was possible earlier, there should be no reason why it is not possible now. The move should be towards greater transparency and not towards greater opacity.
And let me take that point to Mohandas Pai. Mohandas Pai, you can argue with the opposition calling the Election Commission biased while simultaneously saying that they're actually going to form the next government. I mean, I can see the obvious contradiction there in those claims. But Sanjay Hegde's point in general, as a point of principle, why should the public not know how many votes were cast at a certain booth? Why should more and more information? Today we live in the age of technology. You're a technology master. Technology should make these things easier. It used to happen in the past. Why should that practice not continue? And also to silence critics, to silence skeptics, to silence naysayers. Do you wish that the court had maybe intervened or the Election Commission had taken a different position?
See, Barkha, we must let institutions which are mandated by the Constitution do their job without interference from the Supreme Court. We see a very activist, over-activist Supreme Court, which has got judicial overreach, interfering in the activities of every other constitutional authority, driving them and making all kinds of suggestions, like that appointment of Election Commission with a 3-member thing, which is never admissible by the Constitution. The Supreme Court actually told them very clearly, you must have a process, put in the process. Instead of that, we'll have CJ, we'll do this. An activist Supreme Court is very dangerous for Indian politics and is demonstrating now, but by repeatedly hearing all these people on very frivolous matters, they are just passing on a doubt in the minds of people, and people asking why the Supreme Court wasting time. Now leave it to the Election Commission. What did the Election Commission said? Look, we're collating all these Form 7C. And Sanjay conveniently forgot to say, the EC has said in the plain before the Supreme Court, there is postal balloting coming in. We have to count the postal balloting, add that to the 17C, and put the total numbers out, and that takes time. And I read a report, I'm not sure it's correct, which says postal balloting today is about 2%. Now these people, ADR, repeatedly went after the EVM. They did a VPATT, which had no relevance, and they created confusion. I think they're captured by some vested interest. You see the same kind of lawyers, or a group of lawyers appearing for them, I think we should let the election commission do its job. And after the election, you find something wrong, go to the Supreme Court. You have all the rights. Why create doubt during the election? We just had the
But Mohan, this refers to a practice that used to take place.
I know,
This practice used to take place. So why abandon it? So why abandon it?
Barkha, we can ask the election commission, look, this was your practice. Why are you doing it? I'm sure they have logic. What is their logic? Their logic is that, look, we want to count the postal ballots. We want to give the total votes, and we want to give it so that it's authentic. We want to check it up multiple times. Now, please remember, in the first phase, I think in Tamil Nadu, immediately after that election is over, somebody gave, local EC gave all the numbers, and the numbers are found to be inflated, I think. Then within 3 days, it came down. It created a controversy, right? A controversy was created. Now, what do? They release the interim numbers. After 8-10 days, they give you the final numbers for all the constituents together. It's quite possible some of the constituents take more time to come. We don't know. We should ask them, why are you doing this? Give us a logical explanation. That is fair enough. That is fair enough, and I think the issue should do it. Instead of that, go to court at a drop of a hat, have a hearing, make all kind of allegations, because in the court you can abuse anybody, do whatever you want. The courts are very lenient, pass all kind of things, get in the media, and try to hurt people's confidence in this. I think somewhere the court should draw a line and throw it out, and not listen to all these frivolous complaints again and again and again. I think people of this country have trust in the EC. I've not seen ordinary citizens do it, except some political parties, some lawyers who make a living by going to court all the time and creating fear in the media. And of course, the media blowing it up because, it makes good news, right? We can all have a lot of talks with you and other people constantly about this. I think, you should let them do the job. After the election, you find something wrong. If the candidates feel that they've been shortchanged, go to court. How many candidates have made complaints against the results after the EVM has come? Tell me. In the last maybe 25 elections, how many candidates have made complaints? I don't hear of many, much less than what happened earlier. How many disputes are there? They're running it well.
Okay. I agree with your point about not raising not indulging in election denialism, but we still haven't got a good answer to why we couldn't continue a practice that was a transparent practice. We haven't got a good answer to that.
We should ask.
Right?
We should ask.
Yeah.
We should write to the EC an open letter and say, please explain to us why we believe you.
Okay.
We trust you. Please explain to us. It's good to be more transparent, like you said. It's good to give data early. Please tell us the logical reasons so we understand. Write to them. Don't accuse them. Write to them and request them. Treat them with respect.
Okay. Sanjay, do you have a brief response before I go to Maadhavan and Anurag?
The brief response is what the EC told the court. We are not bound to do it. We will not do it. That's all that they've said in their affidavit. That there is nothing in the law which makes us do it. We will not do it. They have not answered as to why they did it previously and why
they've said there's a shortage of manpower at this stage. That's one of the reasons that they've given. They've also questioned that it's a 5 to 6% discrepancy.
Their entire attitude in court has been of, what shall I say, a hurt denial and simultaneously saying, trust me. Both things don't go together. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. And if you have the data, you have the ability to put it, you had the ability to put it out earlier, there is no reason why you can't do it now. Secondly, the court has not thrown out anything. The court says, look, I'm not going to burden the election commission at this point of time. It's halfway down, more than halfway down the election process. I'm not going to put a spanner in the works. We will look at all this after the elections. And yes, when we go after the elections, when these issues come after the elections, then there are so many other pressing issues. They'll say, okay, we'll look at it, and it has gone on from cycle to cycle. I think that what the country doesn't realize is that if the election commission acts like a super body towards opacity and says, trust me, trust gets very fast eroded. Once upon a time in Pakistan, you had free and fair elections only in 1971. That ended with the country breaking up. Bhutto then had an election in 1977. The country didn't trust it. It ended up with Ziaul Haq for about 11 years. Trust in institutions has to be continually earned. Right now, we have bureaucrats who seem to say that, look, we have the files, we are not giving it to anyone.
Okay, let's
Barkha,
open this up. Yeah,
Barkha, one
Mohan,
minute, one
briefly.
minute.
Yeah, okay.
Barkha, we had the curious case of selective justice in this country, where one activist called up the Supreme Court judge and complained about something. They set up a two-judge bench, and then the order did not come. It was split. They set up a three-judge bench the same day to give bail to a person. We've seen such discretion being applied. Now, I have not seen any of these activists question that kind of attitude by the biggest court in this country, where selective justice was handed out. Now, this is an attack on the EC because they feel by attacking the EC and bringing down esteem, not letting them do the work, they'll create fear and confusion. Come on, Karnataka elections happened. The Congress came to power. Anybody contested the EVM? Everybody contested. Nobody. Right? In 2004, the elections, and nobody contested. 2009, they don't contest it. Why is it when the other foot, when they're about to lose, all these people get together, same set of people, create confusion multiple times? One time is okay. Multiple times on EVM, on the same thing. Oh, transparency, this thing, all the time. Yes, transparency is required. Why go to Supreme Court? Why should Supreme Court listen?
Okay.
Transparency is
Okay.
required.
Okay.
Everywhere. Even for lawyers.
Let's allow the others to speak, and we'll come back to Mohan and Sanjay. I do want to say, Sanjay, while I'm all in favor of greater transparency, and I agree with you, the sunlight is the best disinfectant. I don't think we're in Pakistan. We are not in Pakistan. I'm sitting in Baramulla right now, which has voted in greater numbers than Mumbai. So, and this is Kashmir. So I just think that we should also celebrate parts of our democracy when there is something to celebrate. And I think, Kashmir has gone through so much today. To see so many people coming out and vote is a good sign. Sanjay, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Quick
We're going to go to
one-liner.
Maadhavan.
Quick one-liner.
Yeah. Yes.
I was TN Sessions' personal lawyer when the election commission was made a 3-member commission just to cut him down to size. So I know what the election commission is capable of. We'll leave it at that. We'll come back later.
Okay, fair enough. Maadhavan, is there a contradiction in the opposition's position? And I know none of you speak for any particular party, but is there a contradiction in saying, look, Mr. Modi will not be Prime Minister on 4th June, but the election commission is biased. Look, there's a problem with EVMs, but we're going to defeat him. Form 17 is necessary because there's a discrepancy in data, but we're winning. Is there a contradiction?
Yeah, I think there is a contradiction. I think, let me quote, I think George Bernard Shaw, who said that a politician will do anything to be successful. He'll even tell the truth. I mean, I have to be a little humorous and cynical right now because we are living in times of deep trust deficit. And to me, it doesn't seem like a negative thing. Because one of the reasons why we have institutions, whether it's the media, I know in India, constitutionally, the media is not a recognized institution. Barkha, you and I are prodding on in spite of the fact that we have no official sanction as the fourth estate. It's just a nice term they use to damn us whenever it suits them. Now, the other thing is that checks and balances exist as a term in a democracy with as institutions, precisely because when there is a lack of trust, the checks and balances will ensure it's an insurance against abuse of power and or incompetence in some cases. In the present instance, I think one thing I agree with you, Barkha, that you go and tell the people we are going to win anyway, and then you complain about election commission because, as they say, speak softly but carry a gun. So they just want to make sure that there is no, margins that are disrupted by this. But there are 2-3 points I want to make on this. One is, of course, I've made about checks and balances. I know much as Mr. Mohandas Pai will hold forth on, how people are upset and judgments are there. The fact is that even judges can go wrong. Judges can lack integrity. So can politicians, so can journalists. Everybody can have a character. Integrity and competence are not a monopoly of any profession, which is why we have institutional processes and balances. And let me speak as with the experience of someone who understands both technology and media, to which I belong, which is that people talk about the Prime Minister not having held press conferences for 10 years. Let me remind you that the Election Commission has also stopped having press conferences at the end of every polling day. And this is worrying because this was some kind of an accountability to the public through the media. Now we only have announcements and website uploads, and within that, we have already had the election commission going on record saying that we will do what we have to, we must not what you want. In other words, they are not going that extra mile to be democratic in their conduct in terms of accountability to the public. This is increasing the anxiety and worsening the trust deficit. I agree. In fact, I was surprised to see Mohandas Pai talking about how the election commission can explain the delay. The simple fact is that the election commission has not been coming clean on the delays, leading to a certain trust deficit in the political atmosphere in which there has been controversies over the alleged abuse of power by the Enforcement Directorate, the CBI, and other agencies. There is a tendency to assume that there is something wrong, even there is none, which is why we have to go. The Election Commission has an independent institution and
Okay.
not an
I
arm
think,
of, not an arm.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
now just let me say one thing, which I heard two election commissioners also say yesterday, that this whole Form 17 is one thing of a micro level form. We didn't get the data, but the delay taken in aggregating that thing and the discrepancy in the initial turnout and final number is so huge that it raises suspicions, and the election commission owes us an explanation, according to me, on why there is a delay. And one thing that must be noted, that the NGOs and the media seem to be more concerned than the opposition in this, which is a mystery to me that I haven't been able to solve. Except for Mahua Maitra, the others are not really taking that case up. And that is something that, Barkha, maybe you need to do a story on, as to why is it that the media seems to be more worried about this than the opposition. But having said
Okay.
that, I have the right to say as a media person that there has been a complete attitude problem on the election commission. At a,
Okay.
from
I
having
get.
intelligible press releases, we are having raw data being
Okay.
stealthily uploaded. and
I get your argument.
and
Then we can bring
what
in
kind of
Anurag.
digital India are we talking about?
Those are two good questions, Anurag. The point is that if the election commission had, for example, held a weekly press conference and take an open press conference, or even a daily press conference saying, okay, this is what's happening, that sense of not being answerable to the public. The election commission is not answerable to anybody but the constitution and the people of India. And I think the point that Maadhavan is making is, all right, the opposition, maybe some people will say, oh, they're preparing, they're making excuses if they lose the election, etc., etc. Their position is contradictory. Let's put all of that on one side. We all agree that more transparency is better than less. So if the election commission were more communicative, more in dialogue with the people of India, perhaps none of these things would wash or stick or enter WhatsApp forwards. What do you say, Anurag? I can't hear Anurag. Yeah, now I can.
Barkha, what we have to understand is only if the election commission communicates in the way we want them to do, only then there is an amount of trust, and only then they are transparent enough. That is something which I think we should not get into that. Look, you have to understand the ways of communication have changed. Barkha, you've been in communication and mass media for so long. We've always evolved. Now we have social media, we have the state. Let me tell you, the state media agencies are far more active than the national media agencies today. And I have, out of all the panel that is sitting today in the studio or in the newsroom right now, I have the privilege of being a part of the election process, helping my friends out in electioneering this time. And I can tell you, Barkha, this time around, I'll give you a recent example from Andhra Pradesh. The voting has gone in some of the booths till 1 o'clock in the night, 12 o'clock in the night, right? And the next day, there was a press conference from the state election commissioner putting out a consolidated data. Each and every member has been handed out with Form 17C. Each and every member. My narrative is, my point, Barkha, what I'm trying to make is there a bunch of candidates who have represented to the court telling that, boss, you have given the election commissioner or my polling agent has been given a Form 17C, which I'm going to contest, which I'm not happy with, either of the sides. So the candidates, by and large, have not approached the court. And it is a narrative that one section is trying to build, that they're not being transparent, is something that you need to understand. That election commission, at least I can tell you, majority of the seats have already gone past by the voting. And I can say this time, each and every data if you see the state newspapers the very next day or the subsequent day, you will have the statement, official press conference by the state election commissioners from each and every seats, and the seats that have had conflict, they're putting out very clearly that this is the number. So there is no who are the people who are going to be affected by the display of the numbers. So say, for example,
I think we lost Anurag there. I think Anurag's just bunched up. But I think the point, Sanjay, if you want to just step in, that the candidates are still free to get their Form 17. They still have access to the votes polled at their relevant booth, right? So what has changed? Because the candidate can share that technically. I'm just trying to understand. It's a very technical question. Can every candidate still access the Form 17? Can we unmute Sanjay, please?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
The point is that at the candidate level, that's a micro level. A candidate gets a Form 17 for each particular booth. He has the data in case he wants to challenge it. And supposing he feels that he was deprived of the election or he was cheated out of the election, then he can file an election petition later. But systemic change happens at the macro level, at the level of the election commission. And now when you make a systemic change, when you previously used to aggregate the data, put it up on your website, keep everything open, and it's a public document. And even under the RTI, making hundreds of thousands of RTI applications, you can still theoretically get it after a lapse of time, of course. The question is of the aggregation of the data being available in real time as the election goes on. So if you see that there is something fishy happening before the election is concluded, and you can take it up then and redress it then, rather than saying, okay, we will have it in God's
So why does
time.
this worry you? If you had to explain to the layperson why this not being uploaded in real time worries you, briefly, I know, Maadhavan, you've got your hand up. Why does it worry you?
No, it worries me because despite the individual machines supposedly being hack-proof, the system as a whole, there are people who have grave doubts. The unaccounted number of more than 1 crore of votes being accounted for later. And even the opposition has put out that those votes also, the increase in voters have come out in seats where the opposition previously had done well. So the question is, are there more? These are hypotheses. And Mohan, you can keep shaking your head, but let me finish.
No. Okay, let him just finish. Mohan, give him one more sentence. Give him one more sentence. One more sentence.
So the question is, are there systematic changes happening? Maybe more machines being suddenly introduced, or tallies being fudged around with. This data is necessary for the continuous audit at both the candidate level and at civil society level. In Karnataka recently, there was a civil society meeting which said that, look, the election commission looks suspect. We are also going to monitor. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
Barkha.
Okay, Mohan, go ahead.
Barkha, this is the height of creating doubts. Please remember, when the counting takes place, the total number of votes have to be as per the Form 17C, because everybody in every booth has got the form. You open a box, when you call out the numbers or to count it, you got Form 17C. There's a check and balance. Then there are postal ballots. How can anybody suddenly increase it by 1 crore, 2 crores? And please remember, there's a data release of each constituency where there has been a change from the initial numbers, barring 5 or 6 constituencies where it has gone up 4-5%. Rest are all very small numbers. Now look at this lawyer creating doubt, making specious claims, making them look bad. Oh, there could be something. New machines introduced. How can new machines be introduced? When you count, you have a count of the machines. Each machine has got a form 16C, 17C. Everything is there. It's open counting. Everybody's representative is there. How can anybody do that? Now you go on adding doubt after doubt after doubt to create doubt. You're destroying the institutions. How are you going to make sure that the institutions have credibility by destroying them? This is the height of all these rabid, creating rabid,
But
doubt
isn't, but
creators
isn't,
by
but
these
isn't,
NGOs. And
but
Barkha,
isn't,
let
but
me tell you, Barkha, let me one more point. Now, are we an NGO-driven society? What is the credibility of the NGOs? We know many NGOs are funded by George Soros. We know money coming in. We know all these people are paid off. What is the credibility? Let the candidates fight. Let the candidates fight. Let
Oh
the
my God.
political parties fight. Why have these
But isn't
NGOs
the best
mandated to
way,
fight?
isn't the best way, Mohan, to silence all of
Yes,
these skeptics, these
I
naysayers,
agree. I
is to
agree.
shine light on all data. That's
Barkha,
the best way.
There are many areas where you have to shine light, including who funds all these lawyers and everything, and who fund these NGOs. I think we should ask the EC, look, in the next elections, please do all this in time and have a dialogue much before the elections come. After the elections are announced, just keep quiet. If you don't like it, challenge it of the election. Don't try creating doubts all the time.
Okay. I must allow Sanjay a brief interjection, and then Maadhavan can have the closing word. Yes, Sanjay.
No. See, I fund myself. Mohandas Pai funds himself. That's about it. Though I give him that benefit, I expect the same benefit to be given to me.
I think that's fair. Mohan, that's fair. I don't think we should make.
No,
Let's
Sanjay,
not
I
make.
agree with you. Sanjay, I'm not
Yeah.
doubting your integrity, okay, despite whatever you say. I respect you as a lawyer. I respect you as a citizen. I respect you as an individual. Please, it's not about you. It's about the community.
Okay.
Oh, for the
Lawyers.
community also I'll fight. But we'll have a separate one. We'll have a separate one.
Okay. As long as we've established that there's no personal animosity and attacks here, I'm good with that. Lawyers pay, you all will argue later. Madhavan, go ahead.
Yeah, very
Madhavan.
quickly, 3-4 points. First of all, I have no problems about getting funds from anywhere, because I say that if you can have foreign direct investment in business and industry, why should journalists or NGOs be any less? Are we any less citizens? We have a right. If you think as a nationalist businessman you can get FDI, I as a nationalist journalist have a right to get a fund from anyone, including George Soros. You are nobody to tell me where I should come from. You have the power, you have the law.
Very much.
That's your problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for making the statement. That's fantastic.
FDI in intellectual activity should be welcome, because we are a free society. As Tagore said, let there be no domestic walls. The second thing I want to say is that more than funding, what is important is funda. The funda of a democracy is what I call duty of doubt. We had a high school lesson by J.B.S. Haldane called the duty of doubt. To doubt and to have suspicion is an integral part of the democratic process. And it is like bowling in cricket. You can't say just because a great batsman is bowling, you can't bowl a bouncer or a googly. You have a right to, you have a duty to. So a creative contrarianism is a term I have just coined in honor of Mohandas Pai. So creative contrarianism is something that you have to live with. You are supposed to answer and be accountable. And a third point is that I agree with Mohandas Pai, because I don't disagree with everyone on everything. I'm not a politician. That, yeah, it is true that political parties need to be more active than NGOs and journalists, because it only raises suspicion of us, our being, we are doing our job of raising doubts and questions, because that's how we live. But political parties need to be more organized. In fact, when I raised questions on Aam Aadmi Party the other day on Twitter or X, and Mohandas Pai was surprised because he thought that I was an AAP supporter or something. I am raising questions based on principles and processes. So if you're an organization, you will issue a press release, whether you're a political party or an election commission. You will take questions. So as a journalist and as a citizen, ultimately NGOs or civil society organizations only represent citizens.
I think,
so does the media. So I think we represent citizens here, and we speak only as citizens at one level, even if you're privileged at many other levels.
I too take your point that in any healthy democracy, the spirit of interrogation of institutions and the willingness to be interrogated ourselves, it works both ways. We also have to be willing to take whether
Absolutely.
we have to be willing to take that interrogation when we put others through it, right? Now, Anurag, we were going to close, but we lost you midway. If you want to briefly just conclude your point, you were talking about your experience helping your friend's electioneer. Go ahead, if you can hear me,
No, I think
Anurag.
I think, but yeah, I think, Barka, I was just trying to make a point that the ways of communication have changed. It is not that, it cannot happen that the way you want EC to communicate, only then you will say, okay, it's trustworthy. I mean, it's like my way or highway. I mean, let's understand that EC also by every passing election, they are improving based on the data. And also, Mr. Hegde made a point initially, which I was a little surprised. EC did not outrightly say that we are not duty bound or legally bound to do this. EC also said there is a element of mischief. They gave a detailed statement that there is an element of mischief. Now, that is exactly why I'm trying to ask Barkha that if the numbers of Bangalore South, how relevant are the numbers of Bangalore South to the people of Delhi or to people of Kashmir? The turnout of Bangalore South, if there is a delay of 6 hours, right? How is it going to affect the people of Delhi or people of Punjab or Haryana? So if it is not having any element of mischief that they want to create a narrative or a false perception, then I think you as long as you are getting
Okay,
the data,
Sanjay, do you want to
I
respond?
want to contest. I
Yeah.
want to contest on one point. I want to contest only one point.
He
I want
was
to
in
ask Mr.
Varanasi.
Sanjay Hegde. I want to ask only one point, sir. Sir, I just want to ask one question to you, sir. How many contesting candidates who have already completed the election, both sides or any party, have gone to the court seeking a justification and expressing their displeasure on the data given by the IC because Form 17C is given to the polling agents appointed by these candidates? Can you give a data to me, sir? How many candidates have gone to the court?
Sanjay, go ahead.
The courts will not entertain anything by an individual candidate till after the election results. That is the law from Punnuswamy's case downwards. Okay. So you can come only, a candidate can come only in an election petition after the elections. Any sound lawyer would tell you that. You can keep showing your face for or making faces, but that doesn't change the law.
Last
So,
word.
so,
That's
so
very
But
good.
can I,
Good
but
point.
1 minute, 1 minute. I have a follow up to Sanjay. The question about why Bangalore South impacts the voter in Kashmir. Why does everybody need to know that data? You didn't answer that. Before
No,
that,
my
I'll come
answer.
to you, Mohan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My answer was very simple. Do you think that a citizen of India is not entitled to find out what is happening in Varanasi, where a prime ministerial candidate is? You can be anywhere, and you can be interested in elections at in any constituency in India. Injustice anywhere affects justice all over. That's a stupid question.
yeah.
Okay. Mohan, quickly, and then Maadhavan. 30 seconds each to both of you. I have to close. Mohan.
We should
Yeah.
have EC become more transparent. I agree. They must give the information as early as possible. I agree. The information must be, full, complete, and auditable. I agree. And we must ask them why they're not doing it and ask them to do it. I agree. But don't abuse the EC. Don't go on casting doubt. Don't go on creating frivolous agreements again and again and again. Have a civil dialogue. Respect them and trust them till they break the trust. Saying, have they introduced new boxers? Have they done this? Come on, don't, an eminent lawyer talking like this on national TV with you, Barkha, one of the biggest stars in this firmament. What is this? Where have we come to? Everything is wrong. Everything is suspicious. Only I am God's own creature. What I say is there. I go to court and give publicity. Don't
Okay.
destroy reputation.
Okay.
We have to respect institutions. We have to self-correct. We have to demand. But we must do
Okay.
it in the right way without destroying the reputation. Don't do that.
Okay. Maadhavan, closing word.
Yeah,
Maadhavan.
I have an interesting story to tell. I have translated a novel by Tamil writer Sujata, who also happens to be the lead inventor of the electronic voting machine as an engineer. I have read an interesting account of how his first electronic EVM was challenged in a court by a communist candidate in Kerala. And as it happened, the communist candidate lost the case, but he won the election, which basically means that politicians love to win, whether it's a court or whether it's the election. And my cynical assumption is that the reason why politicians are not, candidates are all not talking about this is that if they lose the election, they will go with a petition to the court saying that they lost because of this election commission 17C. And this is how politicians think. No, our job is not just to think. Journalists have extra burden. We have to think how others are thinking. And that's what we are thinking today.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. But I think one thing we can all agree on is we must never stop asking questions. We must never stop answering questions. But equally, as I sign off today from Kashmir, we must also never stop appreciating how invested the ordinary Indian is in the voting process, and whatever can be done to celebrate that, but also to protect that, we should do that. I think that's the spirit we can all agree on. Signing off from a town in North Kashmir that has voted in greater numbers than the financial capital of India. That's something to think about today. Thank you very much, Sanjay, Hegde, Mohandas, Anurag, Naidu, and Maadhavan, Narayan. And thank you to our audience. Our journey is almost coming to a close, but not without a few days of coverage from on the ground in Kashmir, Kanyakumari to Kashmir. We have done it. Thank you for being part of our journey. And if you have not become a member of the Mojo community, do sign up. The link is right there. Thank you for watching. And these kids would also like to say bye to you. Can we say bye? Can we say bye? Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for watching. We're at the Indian mainland's southernmost tip in Kanyakumari, the confluence of the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. It is from here that we're beginning our big road trip to the heart and the soul of India, Havas of democracy. That's all about traveling thousands of kilometers to look at the food, the fun, the festivity, the flavors of this election, but also, of course, to tell the stories of you, the people, of we, the people. At Mojo Story, we have always gone to where the story is. It could be the battlefields of Israel and Gaza, it could be the conflict zone of Manipur, or it could be the sorrow and the tragedy of COVID. We think of all of you as members of our community, of our family. So, I'm urging you and requesting you today to help us tell your stories and our stories. So do become a Mojo member. Support and power our storytelling, but also get first access to our big interviews, our special ground reports, our town halls, and also have the opportunity to ask our newsmakers questions directly, as well as get published on our platform. Become a Mojo member, click on the link below, and see you soon.